Hello from cold, gloomy London. Here after being in Italy and Switzerland, almost over with my little tour of Europe. Here for some workshops for the midnight people. So I'll be home soon. And then after that, down to Argentina to set everything up with Malay and the rest of the gang for December for the Constitutional Convention. I did want to make a quick video because, from time to time I comment on technology and projects in the ecosystem as a whole. And people are so radicalized and polar that they anticipate the founder of Cardano to always just say negative things about the things that people do. And if I say anything positive, there's this immediate impression that I'm abandoning Cardano or somehow being disloyal to the project. First, that tribalism is intrinsically self-destructive. And second, it prevents us from learning and growing together as an ecosystem. So recently I made some comments about SWE. I've been looking at the project with an objective eye. And the reason why is that some of the technology comes from George Dinezis. I've known George for almost a decade, and we were one of the first teams to implement RS Coin, a protocol that he wrote with Sarah Meiklejohn years ago that we used as a precursor to some things with Cardano before the mainnet launched. So we've always tried to find a way to collaborate with George, but he's always been busy in UCL, and we have our team up at University of Edinburgh. But we're all in the same academic circles there, and everybody reads and cites each other's papers. So he wrote a paper called Narwhal and Tusk, which is one of the fastest BFT protocols ever conceived. Incredibly high throughput, 6-figure TPS, low latency. It has trade-offs, as does Red Belly and others. But George is a real researcher. And if you look at the design of SWE, there is real research and there's a real team that's behind it. I'm not commenting on the distribution, the tokenomics, how they've launched, all those things. I haven't looked at those things, and nor do I care about them. I don't hold any SWE, and I'm not involved with the project in any way. So I dispassionately look at these things to say, is there any interesting innovation that has occurred? Because it's important for us as an ecosystem to see what we can collaborate on and work with. As you know, we joined DREC, and we're working on decentralized wallet recovery with Hedera Hashgraph, with Ripple, and also Algorand as ecosystems, because it's a universal problem that all of us are involved with. There's this stuff that's floating around that Cardano's old technology, we only do one transaction per second, and best days are behind it. There's no innovative ideas there. What's ironic about it is that Ethereum is desperate to try to beat Cardano. They're trying to figure out how to do on-chain government. They're trying to have liquid non-custodial staking. They're trying to figure out how to bolt on UTXO. There's a lot of things we did right in 2018, 2019, 2020, and beyond that did take some time to get out the gate. But now we're enjoying the benefits of them. You see, the thing is, Cardano is about compositionality and momentum. When we make design decisions as an ecosystem, we build on top of those decisions for years to decades to come, and we don't regress or have to radically change the core design of the system. Plutus came out and is a very tight system from expressiveness. Then V2 got better, V3 got better, and then a family of languages came. We didn't radically change the programming model or the security model, but now it's exponentially easier to write applications on Cardano, and they're much faster and cheaper, in fact, 10 times cheaper in many cases than they were just a few years ago, without any deviation from the core programming model, which also was hand in glove built for technologies like Hydra, which is starting to become into enough maturity to actually start doing useful things, as well as where we want to go as an ecosystem with partner chains and Leos. Leos will be the fastest single shard protocol around. It's what's called the 1- delta protocol. You can't really get much faster than that without sharding the system and then trading off decentralization and security. So in terms of prototyping, Ouroboros Paris, the SIP is written. We're nearly done with the prototyping of it, and all of that's being turned over to an RFP, which I believe Modus Create is currently bidding on, the ones who implemented Genesis, also known as Tweak, because Modus Create acquired Tweak. Well, the exact same thing is underway with Ouroboros Leos now. And we have 6.8 full-time engineers working on the innovation team right now for Leos that will continue to scale because it's such a high priority inside the ecosystem. And all of that is sitting over at Intersect. We're leading the primary push, but there are other companies, namely Sunday Swap and WellType, that are also involved in the prototyping, and more to come as this becomes more critical. So the point is that plus the fact that we are still the most decentralized, and we've just turned on the largest decentralized government in the entire industry, is a demonstration of how Cardano is starting to speed up and how Cardano's design decisions are cumulative. They're building on themselves layer after layer. We have the best network stack. We have the best consensus architecture, the best programming model. And with the launch of Midnight, we'll be connected to pretty much everything in the industry as an ecosystem. Other frontier technologies like Babel fees allow people to pay in the assets that they care to pay in, and for markets to form with that. And we will embrace zero knowledge in ways that it's very difficult for account-based models to do so. Rolling up outputs of UTXO is much simpler than rolling up account systems, and less security trade-offs as well. And we're best in class there. So Cardano is one of those things where you can go away for a few years, you come back, and it's exponentially better. And that's what makes it so cool. That, alongside the hard fork combinator, means you have seamless upgrades in the system. It's very easy to build high-performance protocols if you are willing to sacrifice decentralization. And it's very easy to move very quickly as long as you're willing to trust a central authority to do that on your behalf. It is much harder to do things in a fully decentralized way with an on-chain government. Cardano chose that road because it's a real cryptocurrency. And its aspiration is to be the dominant platform for the economic, political, and social systems of the world. It's been pioneering for a long time, and that's why it's been around for 7 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It also has a deflationary monetary policy and low inflation with the consensus algorithm, Ouroboros. We learned a lot from Bitcoin, and we built on top of those ideas. There is a lot of personal distaste in certain ecosystems and communities for me, a lot of misinformation, and a lot of just straight up lies that people tell. But it doesn't really matter because Cardano's here. It's going to be here tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. And the point is that we are number one because we figured out the recipe. A lot of what we've been doing in 2024 is sharing that recipe and getting that recipe institutionalized so that custodians across the world will ensure that it is protected for the decades to come. Already, there's a vigorous debate occurring about the budget process. Already, there are more than 500 people who have signed up to be DREPs, in addition to the dozen plus people serving on the Constitutional Committee. And all of the details for Chang +1 are nearly finished. And we are on schedule as an ecosystem for node version 10, which will enable Chang +1. And there's a high probability the on-chain government will initiate it before the end of the year or early Q1 of next year, subject to their will, because they're in charge. In the process of doing that, we then have a full on-chain government. And the Constitutional Convention is on schedule. More than 40 workshops have been held across the world, and soon to be 63 in 50 countries, with 63 delegates being voted and alternates being voted on to descend to Argentina to ratify a constitution, to then be completely ratified on chain. There's no cryptocurrency in the world that's had the audacity to try to do things in parallel and at this scale that we've been doing. That's just a fact. And doing so with no help from the VCs and a lot of people playing unfair games. Yes, there are certainly some problems, and yeah, we need to grow in certain areas. And that's one of the discussions right now in the on-chain government, especially with marketing, branding, and growth. And I'm one of the loudest voices saying that the time has come for us as an ecosystem to market the USPs of Cardano and to get Cardano's brand out there as the most cutting-edge, state-of-the-art ecosystem and the safest ecosystem to build on, and to grow Cardano at a steady and mature rate. There needs to be some discussions of what growth means and what KPIs are meaningful. And that's the point of a budget process, is that it puts money down on the table to match intent. Leaders have to step up and do great things. But the point of decentralized governance is to give space for leaders to do so. Only Cardano and Bitcoin have truly escaped their founding teams. The rest of them are reliant upon them in some way or fashion. That's just a fact as well. And that's what makes Cardano so special, is that we have created the largest decentralized brain, the largest decentralized government, and unlike Bitcoin, we have not succumbed to stagnation and anarchy, where there's no way to evolve the core protocol. Quite the contrary, there's a desire to speed up the rate of innovation. There's a desire to innovate. Now, there's a lot of things that we have to relax as an ecosystem. There's already a lot of talk about a new version of the node, one that is less reliant upon Haskell and more of a polyglot nature. There's also discussions about alternative clients as well. Again, these are things that are being discussed in the budget process, and I'm in favor of a Cardano 2 in terms of a node architecture that relies upon all the lessons we've learned over the last 7 years and to build this in the most inclusive way possible. We've already begun key conversations with members of the Cardano ecosystem who are outside of input-output, who have been building infrastructure like the TX pipes and DC Sparks about serving in an architectural role to discuss a new node design. This is something I'll talk about in more detail in my presentation down in Argentina, where I talk about the new roadmap and where we can go and what we can do. But again, this has to be endorsed, funded, and approved by an on-chain government. That's the difference between us and those who aspire for decentralization. We've achieved it. It's done in a considered and deliberate way where no one is really left behind. That's the magic of who we are and where we're going. It's not sexy. It's not flashy. We don't wake up with these huge announcements that surprise everybody, the one more thing on a stage like Steve Jobs. Instead, it's the tireless work of thousands of people across the world, many of which have never met each other, who all just want a better world. And that's why they contribute. Cardano is here to change the world's economic, political, and social systems. And it's built purpose hand in glove for that expressed reason. And we've truly innovated in every place you can look, from how you measure decentralization with the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, to how governance works with SIP 1694, to how one should approach like clients with Mithril, to how people should approach state channels with Hydra, to how sidechains needs to work in a way that promotes interoperability with partner chains, to a 1-delta protocol, which is Ouroboros Laos, to the entire formalization of the consensus logic of our industry as a whole, leading to liquid non-custodial staking built upon the ethos that Satoshi set out. The realization of the dream of color coins with Cardano native assets, the expansion of the accounting model that Satoshi invented with extended UTXO, allowing us to do proper smart contracts in a UTXO system and derive all the benefits of them, including the verifiability and determinism and local predictability of resource utilization. The seamless upgrades with the hard fork combinator, the utilization of literate AGDA, so it allows us to have formal specifications that extract both Haskell and soon Rust code. The polyglot nature of Cardano smart contracts with TypeScript, Aitken, which is essentially looks a lot like Rust, and Haskell for high assurance applications mean you pick your own adventure. These are all amazing innovations, not to mention Catalyst and the 1,900 funded projects that it has, and the soon-to-be $600 million on-chain treasury at the consent and deliberation of an on-chain government you pick. The dozen-plus wallets that are community developed and all the amazing standards there, and Atala Prism, now Hyperledger Adentis, which gives us the best-in-class identity stack. These are undeniable innovations, comprising millions of lines of code, with thousands of engineers who have touched and conceived of these ideas. Over the last 7 years, the project has been live, and 9 years total, backed by 223 research papers. There's just simply put nothing in the industry that even comes close to the cumulative effort of this endeavor, because we sought out to be different, to do things differently, to think differently, and think from first principles about what is required for us to change the world and make those changes stick and not get co-opted by large corporations, the banking industry, or the convenience of avarice, especially if the founders are afflicted by it. And I'd like to believe we've been successful. Now, I fully agree with you. We don't get enough credit, and we're not growing as fast as I would like. But all things considered, to go from nothing to a multi-million person ecosystem in 9 years is pretty impressive, especially when it's more valuable than the vast majority of companies in the world, which is a pretty impressive thing if you think about it. No, there's not 30,000 daily active users. There are 1.4 million wallets currently delegating. Yes, the DeFi side needs to grow, and it has not gotten sufficient love from the VC side of the house, nor have we enjoyed the majority of the meme coin surge that's occurring. But I do take a little bit of pride in the fact that we don't have to rely upon Ponzi schemes for growth. Let's be honest here. The vast majority of the meme coins in the industry succumb to this. The only reason they're valuable is lots of people are buying them. And the goal of the insiders, the early adopters, is to dump on new entrants, hoping they can get out before it collapses. That, by its very definition, is a Ponzi scheme. The vast majority of projects on Cardano are trying to build things and do things, like SingularityNet and World Mobile as examples. Iagon is another. There are dozens of incredible entrepreneurs every day waking up, working on interesting things for a cumulative total of more than 300 projects that have launched and about 1,000 that are underway in various forms and function. In fact, it's hard to track all of them, and it's hard to know all of them because the ecosystem continues to grow and evolve. Again, I'm not saying we're done. In fact, this is just the beginning. There's a lot to do, but it's being done just like how the parent protocol is being done. The vast majority care about decentralization. The vast majority care about proper incentives. The vast majority care about good governance, and the vast majority care about working together to get things done, which is why when we look at the pool of DREPs and members of Intersect, the members-based organization, which hosts many of the governance conversations that are occurring off-chain, are made up by members of people building projects actively on Cardano. That's an impressive thing, and I'm proud of that. So I will praise from time to time good science and good engineering effort and interesting protocols that come across. But that doesn't mean in any sense of the word that I'm no longer on the Cardano train. Let me be very clear here. Cardano, I do believe, will become the largest cryptocurrency ecosystem in the world. It's going to take some time, and it's going to be done by the collective efforts of millions, if not tens of millions of people working diligently in their own interests, in their own projects over the coming years and decades. But I'm a young guy, and many of you are too. We have the time to get it done because we're getting it done with principles. And that's what this has always been about. And it is very important that we learn from others. It's very important that when we see interesting approaches or unique projects, that we praise them. And we try to find ways to work with them and integrate with them. Because after all, we can trade with each other. The age of blockchain versus blockchain is coming to an end, and the age of blockchains trading with blockchains is starting to begin. We have so much more to gain working together as an industry than we do working apart as an industry. And I've always believed that. I think tokenomics and cults of personality and the very nature of social media at times can get in the way of this. But overall, I think we are working our way in this particular direction. So I just figured I'd make this video very quickly, a little tired. That's okay. We're pushing. And just tell you guys that I'm here to stay. I love every part of this. And thank you so much for listening. Cheers.